Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Hurricanes versus the Force, I guess the tale of Super Rugby Trans-Tasman continues with a Hurricanes win 43-6 over the Western Force. Western Force, arguably the best performing Australian team in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman so far this season, but this is their first time they've had to go on the road. Not the kind of performance that they were hoping for, was it, Stephen?
No, this was a tough night at the office for the visitors, Paul, and I think probably that final score just probably shows you the gulf in class between the two sides in terms of skill that's on offer, and to be honest, and that's probably a Hurricane side that played nowhere near their best. In fact, they looked like they were stuck in second or third gear for a good part of that match, Paul.
I think they played a bit better than last week, though, arguably they struggled last week. And I think early on they weren't playing that particularly well either. We had players getting in the way of each other, having obstruction penalties. We had a restart going out on the full. Geordie Barrett kicking to the corner and missing and kicking the ball dead. The Canes really were not on form early in that game at all.
No, not all. They were just lacking a little bit of accuracy. Probably, there's an old saying, I think you've got to earn the right to go wide sometimes, and I think they probably just needed to just be initially a little bit tighter, and I think they were quite loose, and it kind of played a little bit into the Western Force hands. At that time, they picked up a couple of early penalties and just, in fact, probably piggybacked their way up the paddock on penalties, and ironically, their points came from penalties as well, with good pressure. Good for them.
Yeah, so the problem though I saw was that the Force, particularly that second penalty, they were going through the game. They're going through the phases, looking after the ball well, retaining possession nicely, but just not getting over that gain line. They would either get up to the gain line or be going backwards the whole time, which meant they were basically just waiting for a penalty, or they'd end up having to kick it away. Now they got the penalty, that was good, and they managed to kick the six, but really. Particularly in that first half, probably through the whole game. I'll be honest, I've missed chunks of the second half due to a meltdown by one of my daughters. But hey, that's life. They just couldn't get over that gain line, whereas the Hurricanes were. And in that first half, the Force's defence improved towards in the second half. But in the first half, they had missed something like 14 tackles, and if you're going to do that, that creates clean breaks, and the opposition getting over the gain line. It means they get not only they get over the gain line, they get quick ball, and give this Hurricanes side quick ball, and they've got the guys who are going to hurt you.
Oh, very much so. No, not just quick ball, but the Hurricanes is one of those teams that feeds off mistakes as well. In one area where the Force really struggled tonight, not just with that physicality at breakdown, but listen, you're not going to be able to create any sort of pressure if you can't get your line out right. And I thought in that first half especially, they just couldn't get their line out together. Credit to the Hurricanes, they were putting the pressure on, getting guys like Scrafton up in the air nice and high. And it's a bit of an irony that what probably should have been a really good field position for the Force actually became one of the brilliant individual try scoring feats of the season from Asafa Amua, who looked more like a back running down the field than he did a front row forward, Paul.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, overthrown line out, moves at the back on his own, catch the ball, runs up, steps a couple of guys, and then just basically runs down the sideline, and no one can catch him. And look, this is why the All Blacks took him on a November tour, 3 years ago now? I think it was now, and he had some weight issues, but seems to have got his head into the right kind of place now, where he's understanding what it means to be, or what it means to be a professional rugby player, and that it's not going to happen all on natural talent. He's going to need to work hard and look after his body. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that labour. I think probably the second half of last season and this season as well. That shows he's got himself in that right kind of place, which is good to see.
Yeah, I agree.
We then had to my mind, I don't approve of the way the Hurricanes are always kicking every single thing for lineouts. I think they really should be taking some threes that are offer, build a score, and then push on for the bonus point later. I think by trying to only score in 5s and 7s, they're actually ending up probably scoring less points than they would do if they allowed scoreboard pressure to apply as well. That try on 12 minutes really sort of got them going. The Canes got a bit they had to try and disallow because Rayasi pushed someone in the back and off the ball, and then they had the 5-meter line out where Rayasi showed what he can do by diving into the corner. I'll be honest, I thought he'd put it down on the line, but no, he put it in play, and a very good try, diving try by him. Add into that suddenly a strip and a Karifi bounce off one player, and through he goes. And that was the big thing here. It was those missed tackles alongside the Canes getting over that gain line meant that was the difference in this game.
Well, Paul, I agree. I think when you're playing a team like the Hurricanes, you've got to keep the ball away from them, but you've got to be very accurate at breakdowns. Because if you're not accurate at breakdowns, I think they're quite a good pilfering team. If you look throughout their pack, yeah, sure they get beasted when they come up against the better packs, but if you do play a loose style of game, you give them the opportunity to pilfer, and unfortunately that was the problem for the Western Force. I thought they were a little bit. There was one particular strip where I thought it was, and that resulted in a try, and I thought they were a little bit tough because the player looked like he'd stuck a knee on the ground, and then the ball was stripped. So it's one of those ones that pretty much goes either way. But the lessons for the Force, if you're playing against New Zealand teams, for crying out loud, you've got to make sure you protect your ball and you go in with a lot of physicality as well. It was a really good comment from John McKee, who I don't know if he's the caretaker coach or one of the coaching staff, former Fijian coach, where he was asked at halftime, look, you're still in the contest, and he turned around and basically said, well, yeah, maybe on the scoreboard, but not really. At the moment, we're just getting out physical, and that's what it came down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, look, it isn't a gap necessarily in passing skills or handling skills or running skills. It's a gap in physicality and defence. Is the difference we're seeing between the New Zealand and Australian sides over these past weeks. If you give these the sides that are in the Australian teams front football, they'll also show you some good hands and some good skills. But the problem is they've got to get that physicality there first to get it over. It's the exact same things we heard last week from Dan McKellar after his side, the Brumbies lost to the Chiefs. He said, "Yeah, look, we just didn't turn up with the intensity, with the physicality, and we got out physical." And that's what's happening here. Look, I mean, Pulu had a great break in that second half, but just couldn't find support from that one. And congratulations to Pulu on his 50th Super Rugby cap. Hat tip to him coming back from suspension to pick that up.
Exactly, and he probably looked their most dangerous back on the field. And to be fair, there were some individuals who I thought actually put in some really, really good performance. I thought Jeremy Thrush just played his heart out, and even though he went off for an HIH, he was still basically putting himself about in the closing minutes. I thought he was very good. I thought Richard Kahui was very solid. In fact, that was really a good chase on Rayasi, even though he had no chance of getting him. Showed that he's still got a reasonable turn of pace. So he's a consummate professional. I thought probably Rod Kearney's probably one of his better games for the Force. Stood out a little bit more, but did most things right. And I actually thought the boy Kaiteka and the number 7 jersey was solid. So they had some individuals that played well, but boy, they just really couldn't string anything together. Once they got in behind the Hurricanes, just really didn't have that ability to go that one step further.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Big Will Rugby from Twitter asks us, the refereeing lads, Geordie's penalty. Now, what he's talking about here is the clean out. Now, with the Jackler where he was, I mean, where is Geordie supposed to hit? Geordie's got low, he's tried his arms, but he has caught the head. What players got to realise is you can't go in at that point. What you've got to do is get over the player, grab him around the body and roll him off. Not a crocodile roll around the neck, but you've got to roll off with the body. You can't charge in when a Jackler's got his head down there, because you're going to get the head and you're going to get yourself penalised at the end of the day. Look, the player wasn't on the ball. Geordie didn't need to go in like that quickly because he wasn't on the ball. Now we're talking split-second decisions here, obviously. But once the player's down like that, you can't throw your body in to clean them out. You've got to grab them and roll them.
I thought, Paul, it wouldn't have surprised me if he'd got a yellow card, because I thought there was a little bit of recklessness to it as well, because it's almost like you're rolling the dice. Fortunately for the player Korteka, he whilst he sort of winced, at least he was okay, and that was the pleasing thing for me. But I was a little surprised, to say the least, when I thought it was only a yellow card only.
No, it wasn't even a yellow card, only penalty only.
Beg your pardon, I meant to say, if it had been a yellow card, it wouldn't have surprised me either, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think that could very easily have been a yellow card. But I understand players going, yeah, well, how are we supposed to clear out? Well, you have to be there first at the end of the day. It's a bit like, how is the player supposed to roll away? Well, he shouldn't be there in the first place. His tackle technique has to place him not in that position. So your team's technique has to have someone there quicker. And that if you leave it that late, then tough. It's too late. Now, we're talking things that are at this level, are a split second. And that one. Big Will Rome said, is it not red? Look, the guy's forehead is practically on the floor. I mean, how low is he supposed to go? It was reckless, but and he did catch the head first, but it wasn't. I just don't see what a player's, what they're really supposed to do. But it does require a coaching change, and we've seen that. I think we've seen that with tackle technique, and the fact that players don't land on the wrong side so much anymore because they know they can't. And all those people who go, "Oh, it's all accidental." No, it's not all accidental, folks. A lot. It's how they're trained. Interesting stat here that I quite like. Luke Campbell, 52 passes. Now, you generally, and your scrum half is always the guy who has the most passes. Generally, your fly half is the guy that has the second most passes. So, for example, on the Force, Cabelli with 38 and Miotti with 16. Whereas if you compare that to the Hurricanes, Campbell 52, Auburn Ledger 10, Geordie Barrett 21, which just shows you how much Geordie Barrett is playing that first receiver role and taking the pressure off Auburn Ledger, and before him off Love as well. Geordie Barrett doing a lot of work in that in what you consider to be a number 10 kind of role in that side of that side of things. Lomax had a great strip. Namur got himself in the race a few times, but also did some good things as well. But great to see Ida Surveyor back and on the pitch after his knee injury. And we have another New Zealand win. I'm not really much sure there's much more really to say about this one.
No, there isn't. Listen, we go into these games hoping it's going to be a competitive game, but I think we all work out reasonably early in the piece that there is a little bit of a golf in class. And like I say, with these with the teams the likes of your Force and the Rebels, you get some really good individual players playing well, but it's once again it just comes down to a little bit of X factor, a little bit of finishing, and like you said before, Paul, the main one, the physicality piece. You saw that in the game when the Brumbies played the Crusaders a couple of weeks back. They were physical, they got stuck in, and they were able to stay in the fight. And that's why, at the end of the game, that was a game that could have gone either way. We saw the same as well when the Chiefs travelled to Perth the first time, although that could have been a case of the Chiefs just being below what they're capable of, and we saw what they were capable of last Saturday against the Brumbies. They were so much better. I think probably for a team like the Western Force, moving forward, you would hope at some stage that whatever development processes they've got in place, that they can bring some quality through, because once again, at the end of the day, when you're seeing guys the veteran players who are probably a little bit past their best, still they're more prominent players on the field. That's probably a little bit disappointing. You want some new guys to stand up. Credit to them. They were still battling, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to this Force team, look, the only reason they're back in Super Rugby is because of COVID at the end of the day. So they thought like they've had any kind of run up or time to sort of plan to be back here. They've now, you can see they're planning for the future. They've gone out and bought four or gone on contract with 4 young guys from the Brumbies development squad as well. So look, they are looking at bringing and investing in Australian youth. It's not just purely in older foreign players, but they need those guys to give them experience at this point to allow the younger guys to get experience around them. And they've had to put a team, as strong a team together as possible at short notice, really, with all these players knowing, if I come to the Force, I'm not winning a trophy, right? But so it's not necessarily an attractive place not the most attractive place to necessarily go if you've got an offer from, say, the Reds or the Brumbies, and you're going to be in a championship challenging team. Where do you go? So, I think people can see now that, as you say, with some of those younger players going there, that the Force are here to stay. There is Australia's response to New Zealand, when New Zealand said, "Oh, we need to drop 2 teams," and they said, stuck 2 fingers up at them, and they've stuck with 5. You can see that that long-term planning is able to happen now. Carlin getting in touch via Facebook. Thank you, sir, and saying that he'd love to see Geordie Barrett have an extended run at 12. Has all the attributes for that position. Then it would unsettle his great run of form he is displaying at fullback. And yeah, I think 12 is going to be his long-term position, personally. But what I think he needs to do, in the same way that Rieko Ioane has done, where Rieko spent an off-season and then came back and said, right, I'm a 13, and spent that pre-season training to be a 13. Geordie needs to do the same sort of thing. I think changing mid-season will be a bad move, but say at the end of this season, if he turned him and the coaches said, hey, look, mate, look, guys, next season I'm a 12, then I think that's the way forward, personally. Stephen?
Geordie's got a heck of a skill set. In fact, when I actually first saw him play was for the New Zealand 20s, and actually he was playing at number 12, and that was in the Oceania tournament back in about 2017, I think it was. That was over on the Gold Coast in Australia, and he looked pretty tidy there. The one thing that he's got going for him, he's got such a good skill. He's got good versatility, and he's got such a good skill set. He could easily slot into any one of those midfield positions, wing and fullback, and you'd be absolutely comfortable that he's actually got the skill set to nail down those positions. You can see you're doing my thing now.
Look, I'll agree with you. I'm not a fan of Geordie on the wing. I don't think he's I think he's more a power runner than a pace runner, and therefore I'm not sure he's got the pace necessarily that I want, that I'm looking for my wingers. But but that would be my point. Aaron, yeah, good point here, that Geordie has to decide, and it's got to be his choice, absolutely. But I think it would have to be a move, I say, in the off season. You say, yeah, definitely got the skill set. What he needs to make sure he doesn't do is end up being too versatile and not nail one position. A bit like his brother's done with Bowden. It's kind of, is he a 10, is he a 15? Where are we going to play him? No, I think he needs to get a jersey, claim it, and keep his hands on it.
Yeah. I go along with that. Yeah, probably not much to add. At the end of the day, 5 points, 5 valuable points for for the Hurricanes, and all of a sudden they put pressure back on some of the other New Zealand teams to go out and do the same and pick 5 points up. So we're probably all set up for an interesting weekend, but let's hope the games that we've got in front of us are a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, look, folks. From a Canes point of view, look, they've played the Waratahs, the Rebels, and the Western Force, which means they've got the 2 harder games coming up in the Reds and the Brumbies. I can't remember which way around it is that they've got the 2 teams, and they've also got to go on the road as well. So,
yes.
So it's going to get more difficult for the Canes. But hey, you can only play the teams that you're drawn against, and so far they've done the perfect job getting 15 points. For the Force, they've got the Crusaders and the Blues coming up. It's not getting any easier for them. Let's be honest. And playing away from Perth, I think is going to be hard for them. In Perth, where the opposition's had to travel quite a long way, I think they've got a much better chance. And we think we saw that in the first game with the Blues. And also, look, they were in that game against Highlanders for a long time, but I think on the road they're going to struggle. To be honest with you. Looking forward to us this weekend. Then Waratahs versus Crusaders. Crusaders by a lot. Blues Brumbies should be a cracker. That's a 7 p.m. game tomorrow evening. Don't forget that Waratahs game is early in the afternoon, 4:35, I think it is, to kick off for that one, from memory. And the late game on Saturday is the Reds versus the Chiefs again. The Reds getting over their championship hangover, and that could be another cracking game. But again, as we've said, physicality first. Finally, the Highlanders versus Rebels on Sunday at 5 p.m, folks. It's a later kickoff because it's in Sydney. It's not going to be. They're not playing in Queenstown. That's because of the COVID situation in Melbourne. So that disruption is going to be an issue for both the Highlanders and the Rebels. So it'll be interesting to see how they both deal with that, on top of all the other things that are going on. So that one. But again, I think as we've always said, that the Waratahs and Rebels in particular are going to struggle in this competition. The Force will do okay at home, but struggle away. And that it's really the Reds and the Brumbies that need to step up for the Australian teams. Any final words, sir?
No, I think we've pretty much summed most things up, Paul. And like I say, just looking forward for the rest of the weekend. And I'm quite excited that we've actually got a whole weekend of rugby with Sunday as well. As I'll be out and about tomorrow, Paul, going out to watch a bit of club rugby tomorrow. So I'll have some interviews up on New Zealand Sport Radio's Facebook site.
Thank you very much. And yes, Aaron is really hoping that Geordie, when he said he decided where he's going to play first, he meant which team. And Aaron is still holding out that we'll see a 10-12 combination of the Blues of Beauden Barrett and Geordie Barrett. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But that's a discussion for another night, folks. Have a wonderful evening. The weekend is here. We've got Super Rugby, and hat tip to the organisers, New Zealand Rugby and Australian Rugby, for getting that game on Sunday going ahead. It would have been so easy to have postponed it.